Shalom, shalom. First off, giving all praises to the Most High and His Son Yahawashi. Today's class, we'll be dealing with the Feast of Purim. And a special shout out, man, to all those Hebrews, those real Israelites, the ones that's out there scratching and fighting to make sure they keep these laws, statutes, and commandments. We're going to go ahead and go right into the class. Let's start at the book of Esther 1 and 1. Read.
The book of Esther, chapter 1, verse 1. Now it came to pass in the days of Ahasuerus. This is Ahasuerus which reigned from India even unto Ethiopia, over 127 provinces.
So he reigned over 127 provinces. This was during the time period of 486 BC to between 486 BC to 465 BC. Read on out.
That in those days, when the king Ahasuerus sat on the throne of his kingdom, which was in Shushan, the palace.
Read on.
In the 3rd year of his reign, he made a feast unto all his princes and his servants. The power of Persia.
The power of Persia, which is modern day Iran. Read.
And Media.
And Media, which sat between western and northern Iran. Read on.
The nobles and prince of the province being before him.
Normally when kings set up a feast, what they do is they invite all the people of power that they are surrounded by to come and take a look at what they have, take a look at their jewelry and they gold, their treasures. They pretty much are putting themselves on a pedestal, letting everybody see the glory of the king. But you know that always comes out of the other nations. Let's drop down to verse 10.
The book of Esther, chapter 1, verse 10. On the 7th day, when the heart of the king was merry with wine, he commanded Mohammed and Besta and Harbona and Bagda and Abagda and Zithar and Carcass, the 7 chamberlains. They served in the presence of Ahasuerus, the king.
Read on.
To bring Vashti, the queen, Vashti, the queen, before the king with the crown royal, to show the people and the prince her beauty.
So understand, the king had, this is his first wife. The king had wanted his wife to come before all the princes and the power of the people that stood around him to show him how beautiful his wife was. He right here, this is all vanity this king is dealing with. Read on.
For she was fair to look upon.
That means she was beautiful. Read.
But the queen
Vashti
refused to come at the king's command by his chamberlains.
Read on.
Therefore was the king very wroth, and his anger burned in him.
Back then, when a queen's wife refused to do what he said to do, pretty much she was breaking the law. Drop down to verse 15. Read that.
Verse 15. What shall we do unto the queen
Vashti,
according to the law, before she hath not performed the commandments of the king?
Since she didn't do what the king said, for as her breaking the law, there's a punishment for that. Read on.
Ahasuerus by the chamberlains and Memucan answered before the king and the prince. Vashti, the queen, have not done wrong to the king only, but also to all the prince and to all the people that are in all the provinces.
So her rebelliousness she shown was a bad example to the rest of the women of the province. Read.
Of the king Ahasuerus. For this deed of the queen shall come abroad unto all women, so that they shall despise their husbands in their eyes, When it shall be reported, the king of Ahasuerus commanded the queen to be brought in before him, but she came not.
So understand something. This time period they was dealing with our people. That was ordained by God that she rebelled against her husband. Because the Most High had a plan to take care of the business, to take care of his people. At all times, he's on top of his toes. Let's drop down to Esther 2 and 5.
The book of Esther, chapter 2, verse 5.
Read.
Now in Shushan, the palace, there was a certain Jew.
So understand, if you were a Jew, you were from the southern kingdom. You either out the tribe of Judah, Benjamin, or Levi. Read on.
Whose name was Mordecai, the son of Jer, the son of Shimei, the son of Kish, and Benjamite. A Benjamite.
So understand that Mordecai was from the tribe of Benjamin. He was a Benjamite. That's right. Read on.
Who had been carried away from Jerusalem with the captivity which had been carried away. With Jeconiah, king of Judah, whom Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, had carried away.
So at this point in time, understand that the Jews, we were in captivity at this time. Read on.
And he brought up Hadassah, that is Esther, his uncle's daughter, for she had neither father nor mother, and the maid was fair and beautiful.
So understand, our women are the most beautiful women on the planet. When you think about it, the Black, Latino, and Native American woman, they are the most beautiful women that's walking on the planet. Read on.
Maid was fair and beautiful, whom Mordecai, when her father and mother were dead, took for his own daughter.
See, that's how the people of Israel stepped up. See, when his niece's mother and father died, somebody stepped right in to make sure they raised the children. Wasn't no other nations adopting our children, homosexuals, lesbian, none of that going on. Somebody would quickly step in to take care of the children and raise them under God's laws, statutes, and commandments, because that's how our people were supposed to get out. Read on out.
So it came to pass, when the king's commandment and his decree was heard, and when many maidens were gathered together unto Shushan, the palace, to the custody of Haggai, that Esther was brought also unto the king's house, to the custody of Haggai, keeper of the women.
So Haggai was the keeper of the concubines of the women. So she had brought Esther unto the house. Read on.
And the maiden pleased him, and she obtained kindness of him.
Now y'all understand, check this out. When a woman please you and you take kindly to that woman, she had to be a beautiful woman in order to capture him like that. Read on.
And she obtained kindness of him, and he speedily gave her.
And he what?
And he speedily gave her her things for purification.
So she had to go through a purification before she could deal with the king. Read on.
With such things as belonged to her, and 7 maidens, which were meant to be given her out of the king's house, and he preferred her and her maidens unto the best place.
Unto the what?
Unto the best place.
Read.
Of the house of the women.
She was gorgeous. So he gave her 7 of the best maidens, and he put her in the best house. This is an Israelite woman that this king is dealing with, but he's a Gentile. Read on.
Esther had not shown her people, nor her kindred, for Mordecai had charged her that she should not show it.
So understand, Mordecai told her not to tell who her people were. Guess what? Just think, if he could have found out she was a Jew first, he might not have married her. So he told her, don't say nothing. Read on.
And Mordecai walked every day before the court of the women's house to know her, Esther did, and what should become of her.
So he was checking on his niece, making sure she was all right. Let's jump over to Esther 3 and 1.
The book of Esther, chapter 3, verse 1. After these things, did King Ahasuerus promote Haman.
Promote who?
Haman.
He promoted Haman. Read.
the son of Hammedatha,
Yeah, you're right. Go ahead.
the Agagite,
Agagite.
and advanced him and set his seat above all the princes that were with him.
So I'm gonna show you something. Agagite is a descendant of the tribe of Amalek. So that means Haman is an Edomite. Read on,
And all the king's servants that were in the king's gate bowed and reverenced Haman.
So all the servants of the king, they showed respect unto Haman by bowing down. Read on.
Haman, for the king had so commanded concerning him. But Mordecai,
But
Mordecai
Read.
bowed not, nor did him reverence.
Mordecai didn't bow down to Haman, nor did he give him respect, because one of our commandments as a Hebrew is not to have any other God before God and not to bow down before anything but the Most High. So he was keeping the commandments. Read on.
Then the king's servant, which were in the king's gate, said unto Mordecai, Why transgressest thou the king's commandment?
Because it was a commandment of the king, not a commandment of the Most High. So they asked him, why is he breaking the law of the king? Read on.
Now it came to pass, when they spake daily unto him, and he hearkened not unto them, that they told Haman to see whether Mordecai's matter would stand. For he had told them that he was a Jew.
So he understood what was going on. He told them that he was a Jew, because I'm pretty sure they knew the laws of the Jew was not to bow down before any king or any other god outside of the Most High. They knew. They trying to see now. They went and told Haman to see if Mordecai's excuse would stand. Read on,
And when Haman saw that Mordecai bowed not, nor did him reverence, then was Haman full of wrath.
So Haman was upset. He was angry because Mordecai would not bow down to him. Read on.
And he thought scorn to lay hands on Mordecai alone.
So he thought to catch Mordecai by himself and hurt him. Read.
For they had showed him the people of Mordecai. Wherefore Haman sought to destroy all the Jews.
He sought to what?
To destroy all the Jews.
Read.
That were throughout the whole kingdom of Ahasuerus. Even the people of Mordecai.
Even the people of Mordecai. They thought to destroy the Jews. We were in captivity. Now he's angry because Mordecai's not bowing down to him. Now he want to destroy all of them, because our laws were not to bow down or show respect unto any other God outside of our God. Read on,
In the first month, that is the month Nisan, in the 12th year of King Ahasuerus, they cast pur, that is the lot, before Haman, from day to day, and from month to month.
Read.
To the 12th month, that is the month Adar.
The month Adar, the 12th month, which falls between February and March. Read on.
And Haman said unto King Ahasuerus, There is a certain people scattered abroad and dispersed among the people.
Read.
In all the province of thy kingdom, and their laws are diverse from all people.
And our laws are different from all the rest of the Gentiles' laws. Read.
Neither keep they the king's laws.
So we don't keep the king's laws, because we let no other laws override our laws. Read.
Therefore, it is not for the king's profit to suffer them.
It is not for the king's profit to suffer them. Understand that. Read on,
If it please the king, let it be written, that they may be destroyed. And I will pay 10,000 talents of silver to the hands of those that have the charge of this business. Of the business.
Read.
To bring it unto the king's treasuries.
Understand, he had promoted to do what? He promoted to go ahead and have them destroyed and pay the ones who were going to destroy them. Read on, Art.
And the king took his ring from his hand and gave it unto Haman the son.
Go ahead.
And gave it unto Haman the son of Hammedatha, and the Agagite.
The Agagite, the Edomite. Read.
The Jews' enemy.
The what?
The Jews' enemy.
So guess what? The Edomites been our enemy ever since Jacob and Esau.
That's right.
And our people fail to realize that. Let me show you something. Let's go to Obadiah, verse 3 and 4. They've been our enemy. They've been wicked. To get the understanding of what's going on, we're supposed to keep our feast and show respect unto our God, because he pull us out the fire when we doing the right thing. Book of Obadiah, verse 3.
The book of Obadiah, verse 3. The pride of thine heart hath deceived thee. Thou that dwellest in the cliffs of the rocks.
Thou that dwellest in the cleft of the rocks. Yes, because Mount Seir is where the Edomites dwell there in the rocks, because they couldn't handle that heat. Read on.
Whose habitation is high. That said in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground?
They are very prideful people. That's why he got so angry when Mordecai wouldn't bow down to him, because he was full of pride. Read.
Though they exalt thyself as the eagle.
Because he had set himself up on high. Now that the king had raised him up, now he set himself up on high. Read.
And though thou set thy nest among the stars.
Read on.
Thence will I bring thee down, saith the Lord.
So since he done set himself up high above all people, his pride done got carried away, but the Most High gonna bring him down to the ground. Let's go back. Esther 3, verse 9. Matter of fact, start at verse 11.
The book of Esther, chapter 3, verse 11. And the king said unto Haman, the silver is given to thee, the people also, to do with them as it seemeth good to thee.
As it what?
As it seemeth good to thee.
Let me show you something. He just told them to go and destroy the people. But they got a perpetual hatred for the Most High God's people. Like they got that same hatred for the Most High God. Give me Ezekiel 35 and 1 right quick. And we'll come back. Understand what's going on.
The book of Ezekiel, chapter 35, verse 1. Moreover, the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Mount Seir.
Set your face against these Edomites. Read.
And prophesy against it. And say unto it, Thus says the Lord God, Behold, O Mount Seir, I am against thee.
I am what?
I am against thee.
Read.
And I will stretch out my hand against thee, and I will make thee most desolate.
I will do what?
Make thee most desolate.
He said he's going to turn Mount Seir into a waste ground. Read on.
I will lay thy cities waste, and thou shalt be desolate, and thou shalt know that I am the Lord.
Read.
Because thou hast, because thou hast had a perpetual hatred.
A what?
A perpetual hatred.
A everlasting hatred. They hated us in the beginning, and they hate us all the way to right now. Read on.
And has shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword.
This has been a constant procedure from the so-called white man to shed blood of our people constantly. This has came all the way back. This started back in Genesis. They've been killing us and raping our women and children and putting us in the fire. They've been doing all these things against our people since the beginning of time. And our people still want to hold hands with them. Read on,
In the time of their calamity, in the time that their iniquities had an end.
Man, let's go back. Esther 3, start at verse 11.
And the king said unto Haman, the book of Esther, chapter 3, verse 11. And the king said unto Haman, The silver is given to thee, the people also, to do with them as it seemeth good to thee. Then were the king's scribes called on the 13th day of the first month, and there was written according to all that Haman had commanded unto the king. Lieutenant and the governors that were over every province, and to the rulers of every people of every province, according to the writing thereof, and to every people after their language. In the name of King Ahasuerus was it written and sealed with the king's ring.
So understand that Haman had the king make a letter to destroy the Jews. And they sealed that thing and they sent it out to all the people of the province. But understand something. All the people of the province were the Gentiles. Those were enemies of the Jews. Read on, Art.
And the letter were sent by post into all the king's province to destroy.
To what?
To destroy.
Read.
To kill. To cause to perish all Jews.
So understand, they were trying to kill all of us. Read on.
Both young and old, little children and women, in one day, even upon the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month Adar.
Read on.
And to take the spoil of them for a prey.
They was gonna take our goods. They was gonna take our lambs and our sheep, the things we used to provide for our family. The spoil just means goods. Read on, Art.
The copy of the writing for a commandment to be given in every province was published unto all people, that they should be ready against that day.
Read.
The post went out, being hastened by the king's commandments, and the decree was given in Shushan the palace. And the king and Haman sat down to drink. But the city of Shushan were perplexed.
But the city of Shushan was perplexed, was puzzled, because what had been brought up on the Jews. They wondered where this came from. Now let's go down. Let's start at Esther 4:1.
The book of Esther, chapter 4, verse 1.
Read.
When Mordecai perceived all that was done, Mordecai rent his clothes and put on sackcloth with ashes.
Read.
And went out into the midst of the city and cried with a loud and bitter cry.
So understand what Mordecai was doing right here. He was crying out to the Most High because he seen what was going on with the people now. He seen that his people had been put on the chopping block to be destroyed. Read on, Art.
And came evening before the king's gate, and for none midnight entered into the king's gate, clothed with sackcloth.
Nobody was supposed to go into the king's gate clothed with sackcloth. But at that time, he was in a hysterical moment that his people about to be destroyed. So he stepped even to the king's gate. Read.
And in every province, whithersoever the king's commandments and his decrees came, there was great mourning among the Jews.
Read.
And fasting.
And what?
And fasting.
Read.
And weeping and wailing, and many laid in sackcloth and ashes.
Now, I'm gonna show you what's going on right here. When we got into a certain degree to where we were in in deep trouble, there was no other help out there. There is no other help for the Jews or for the 12 tribes but the Most High God.
That's right.
So our people did what? They fasted and they prayed and they cried out. Go to Psalms 107 to 19 right quick. Let me show you what was going on, what they were doing.
Read the book of Psalms, 107, verse 19.
Read.
Then they cried unto the Lord in their trouble.
Because when we in trouble, that's what we do. We cry unto our Lord and Savior, unto our God. Read on.
And he saveth them out of their distress.
And he comes and saves us out of our distress. Let's see how he does that. Read.
He sent his word.
He sent his what?
He sent his word.
Read.
And healed them.
He sent his word and healed us. Read on.
And delivered them from their destruction.
He delivers us from our destruction when we cry out unto the Lord. Let's go back to Esther 4 and 4.
The book of Esther, chapter 4, verse 4. So Esther's maids and her chamberlains came and told it her. Then was the queen exceedingly grieved, and she sent raiment to clothe Mordecai, and to take away his sackcloth from him. But he received it not.
He wouldn't take it. See, Mordecai stood on the principles of the Most High. See, what we do is we put sackcloth on and we cry out and we fast and we pray. And I'm not taking that off. Read on.
Then called Esther for Hatak, one of the king's chamberlains, whom he had appointed, and to attend unto her, and gave him a commandment to Mordecai, to know it was and why it was.
Read on.
So Hatak went forth to Mordecai unto the street of the city, which was before the king's gate.
Read.
And Mordecai told him of all that had happened unto him, and of the sum of the money that Haman had promised to pay the king's treasury for the Jews to destroy them.
So he understood what Mordecai did was he let Hatak know what happened, that he wouldn't bow down to Haman, and that now, since he wouldn't bow down or show respect to him, now he went to the king and had him write a letter to destroy all the Jews. So he given him all the information to take back to Esther. Read on.
Also he gave him the copy of the writing of the decree that was given at Shushan to destroy them, to show it unto Esther, and to declare it unto her.
Read.
And to charge her that she should go in unto the king, to make supplication,
to beg for the lives of her people. Read.
Unto him, and make requests before him for her people. And Hatak came and told Esther the words of Mordecai.
Read.
And again Esther spake unto Hatak, and gave him commandments unto Mordecai. All the king's servants and the people of the king, providence, do know that whosoever, whether man or woman, shall come unto the king into the inner court, who is not called, there is one law of his to put her to death.
So
put him to death.
So understand, if somebody came and stood in the yard and the king didn't call for him, he would put him to death if he didn't find favor with him. Read on.
Except such to whom the king shall hold out the golden scepter, that he may live.
So if you stepped into that courtyard and the king didn't hold out the golden scepter, you would get put to death. Read on.
That he may live, but I have not been called to come in unto the king these 30 days.
So she hasn't been called in the past month. Read on.
And they told to Mordecai Esther's words. Then Mordecai commanded to answer Esther, think not with thyself that thou shalt escape in the king's house, more than all the Jews.
So he let her know, don't think that you going to get away and you going to live no more than the rest of us. Read.
For if thou altogether holdest thy peace at this time, then shall their enlargement and deliverance arise to the Jews.
So he said, if you hold your peace, meaning if you don't go in there and make a statement for your people. Read on.
From another place. But thou and thy father's house shall be destroyed. And who knoweth whether thou art to come to the kingdom for such a time as this?
So understand, how you feel like you got in that place. You got in that place for a reason. You need to go in there and beg for the life of your people now that you are the one of the wives of the king. Read on.
Then Esther bade them to return to Mordecai this answer.
So he pretty much let Esther know, don't think you going to get away or walk away while all your people are slain. That's right. You're going to die while you're in the king's house too. If you keep your mouth closed and not be the one to go in there and try to help your people, you're going to die too. So don't think you're going to get away. Read on.
Go, gather together all the Jews that are present in Shushan, and fast ye for me. Neither eat nor drink.
Read.
3 days, night or day. I also and my maidens will fast likewise. So will I go in unto the king, which is not according to the law. If I perish, I perish.
Understand, in our weakness, we are made strong. That fast is making our flesh suffer. And we speaking unto the Lord. We getting closer unto him because he don't need these things to survive. We do. Understand what's going on. Give me Daniel 9:3 right quick. Show you what was happening. This was a regular thing for our people. A regular thing for our people to do. The book of Daniel, chapter 9 and verse 3.
The book of Daniel, chapter 9, verse 3. And I set my face upon the Lord God.
So he set his face unto the Lord God, meaning he was facing the east. Read.
To seek by prayer and supplication. With fasting.
With what?
With fasting.
Read.
And sackcloth. And ashes.
Understand what he was doing. He was preparing himself to be able to reach out unto the Most High God. Read on.
And I prayed unto the Lord my God, and made my confession and said, O Lord, the great and dreadful God.
Because he understands that God is great, but he's dreadful because he killed and he make alive. Read on.
Keeping the covenant and mercy to them that love him.
Keeping the covenant and mercy to those that keep his commandments. Read.
And to them that keep his commandments.
So this is something that we did all the time. We had to pray unto the Most High and come back to him, fast and pray, where we can reach out to him, where he can hear our prayers. Keep his commandments so we can be heard. Let's go back. Esther 5:1.
The book of Esther, chapter 5, verse 1. Now it came to pass on the third day that Esther put on her royal apparel and stood in the inner court of the king's house.
Read.
Over against the king's house. And the king sat upon his royal throne in the royal house, over against the gate of the house.
Read.
And it was so when the king saw Esther the queen standing in the court.
So this is that life and death time right now. Because see, she went over to the court and she wasn't called for. So now we're gonna see what the king gonna do. Read.
That she obtained favor in his sight.
So she obtained favor in his sight. Esther was bad. So he wasn't finna turn Esther away. Read on.
And the king held out to Esther the golden scepter.
Hey, he told her, come on up here, what you need, sister. Read on.
That was in his hand. So Esther drew near and touched the top of the scepter. Then said the king unto her, What will thy, queen? Esther, what is thy request? It shall be even given thee to the half of the kingdom.
So understand something though right quick. We don't have no queens in Israel. We got kings and princesses. That's what we have here. She was married to a Gentile. So they accept that word, queen. Don't get it twisted. Read.
And Esther answered, If it seem good unto the king, let the king and Haman come this day unto the banquet that I have prepared for him. So now that she has gained acceptance from the king, she invites him to the banquet. She's preparing something for him. Read on. Then the king said, cause Haman to make haste, that he may do as Esther hath said. So the king and Haman came to the banquet that Esther had prepared.
Read.
And the king said unto Esther, at the banquet of wine, What is thy petition? And it shall be granted thee. And what is thy request? Even to the half of the kingdom it shall be performed. So
before she even gave her petition, he already said, petition granted. Read on.
Then answered Esther and said, My petition and my request is, if I have found favor in the sight of the king, and if it please the king to grant my petition, and to perform my request. Let the king and Haman come to the banquet that I shall prepare for them, and I will do tomorrow as the king hath said.
Read on.
Then went Haman forth that day joyful, with a glad heart. But when Haman saw Mordecai in the king's gate, that he stood not up, nor moved from him, he was full of indignation.
He was full of anger. Read.
Against Mordecai.
He was, even though he felt he was invited to the queen's supper, he still was so angry at Mordecai and hated him. That's what an enemy does, man. He can't even be happy for a second. Because when he see the righteous men of the Most High God, it's hatred and indignation in his heart. Read on.
Nevertheless, Haman refrained himself. And when he came home, he sent and called for his friends. And Zeresh, his wife.
Read.
And Haman told them of the glory of his riches, and the multitude of his children, and all the things wherein the king had promoted him, and how he had advanced him above the prince and servants of the king.
So he in there gloating about how the king done moved him forward. Read on.
Haman said, moreover, yea, Esther the queen did let no man come in with the king unto the banquet that she had prepared, but myself. And tomorrow I am invited unto her also with the king.
So he feeling great now. He feel like he stand out above everybody. He's on top of the world. Read.
Yet all this availeth me nothing, so long as I see Mordecai the Jew sitting at the king's gate.
So none of that stuff was important to him, but the hatred and the destruction of Mordecai was more important to him than where he stood. Read on.
Then said Zeresh, his wife, and all his friends unto him, let gallows be made of 50 cubits high, and tomorrow speak thou unto the king, that Mordecai may be hanged thereon. Then go thou in merrily with the king unto the banquet. And the thing pleased Haman, and he caused the gallows to be made.
Man, he went ahead and set up a spot where he wanted to see Mordecai hang. He went ahead and got that ready already. Now, let's go to Esther 6:2.
The book of Esther, chapter 6, verse 2. And it was found written that Mordecai had told of Bigthana, and Teresh, two of the king's chamberlains, the keepers of the door, who sought to lay hand on the king Ahasuerus.
So it was two of the king's chamberlains who thought to lay hands on him, who thought to kill the king. Read.
And the king
Stop
said,
right there. I'm gonna show you something. Let's go to Esther 2:21. Let me show you what he was talking about. It says, and it was found written that Mordecai had told Bigthana and Teresh, two of the king's chamberlains, the keepers of the door, who sought to lay hands on King Ahasuerus. Let's see what Mordecai did. Read that for me, y'all.
The book of Esther, chapter 2, verse 21. In those days, while Mordecai sat in the king's gate, two of the king's chamberlains, Bigthan and Teresh, of those which kept the door, were
angry. Read on.
And sought to lay hand on the king Ahasuerus.
So those two chamberlains were angry, and they thought to kill the king. But Mordecai had reported these two. Now let's go back. Read, start at 6:3.
The book of Esther, chapter 6, verse 3.
Read.
And the king said, what honor and dignity hath been done to Mordecai for this?
So what has been done for Mordecai for saving the king's life? Read.
have been done to Mordecai for this. Then said the king's servant that ministered unto him, there is nothing done for him.
So there was nothing done for Mordecai for this good deed. Read.
And the king said, who is in the court? Now Haman was come into the outward court of the king's house.
So Haman was down there. Read on.
To speak unto the king, to hang Mordecai.
To do what?
To hang Mordecai.
Read.
On the gallows that he had prepared for him.
So Haman was coming over there to talk to the king about hanging Mordecai at that point. Read on.
And the king's servants said unto him, behold, Haman standeth in the court. And the king said, let him come in. So Haman came in, and the king said unto him, what shall be done unto the man whom the king delighted to honor?
So he asked Haman, what should I do for the man that I delight, that I want to honor? Read on.
Now Haman thought in his heart, to whom would the king delight to do honor more than myself?
More than who?
More than myself.
So he was feeling himself. He said, okay, so the king want to honor a man. He gonna honor me. So let me spill out what I think should be done. Read on.
And Haman answered the king, for the man whom the king delighted to honor, let the royal apparel be brought which the king useth to wear, and the horse that the king rideth upon, and the crown royal which is set upon his head.
So he's spilling it out now. He think it's him, so this what should be done for me. Read on.
And let this apparel and horse be delivered to the hand of one of the king's most noble prince, that they may array the men withal whom the king delighted to honor.
Read.
Bring him on horseback through the street of the city.
Read on, man.
And proclaim before him, thus shall be done to the man whom the king delighted to honor.
So he said, these are the things that you should do to the man that you want to honor. Do all these things, all these special things. Let him wear your apparel. Put the crown up on his head. Let him ride the horse that you ride on. Read on, Doc.
Then the king said to Haman, make haste.
Do what?
Make haste.
He told him, hurry up then. Read.
And take the apparel and the horse, as thou hast said, and do even so to Mordecai the Jew.
Do it to who?
Even so to Mordecai the Jew.
So Mordecai's good deed put him in a special place with the king now.
That's right.
So Haman wanted to glorify himself. He told him to glorify Mordecai. Now that Mordecai is going to be glorified in this. Read on out.
That sitteth at the king's gate.
Let
nothing fail of all that thou hast spoken.
So when the Bible, when it says, he'll make your enemy your footstool, that's what just happened. Now I'm going to show you something else. Give me Proverbs 21 and 1 right quick. Let me show you something, man, because the Most High, if you stay down with him, he going to stay down with you.
That's right.
If you doing what you're supposed to do, he going to do what he's supposed to for you. And all things, did he not say he killeth and he make alive? Read that when you get there, out.
Proverbs 21 and 1.
Uh-huh.
The book of Proverbs, chapter 21, verse 1.
Read.
The king's heart is in the hand of the Lord.
Read that again.
The king's heart is in the hand of the Lord.
Understand that the king's mind and what he's going to do is already in the hand of the Lord. Whatever the king do, the Most High is directing his steps. Read on.
As the rivers of water, he turneth it whatsoever he will.
He does what?
He turneth it whatsoever he will.
So guess who's guiding this king to make the decisions that he's supposed to be making? The Most High is doing that. Let's go back, Esther 6 and 11.
The book of Esther, chapter 6, verse 11. Then took Haman the apparel and the horse.
Read.
And arrayed Mordecai and brought him on horseback through the street of the city. And proclaimed before him, thus shall it be done unto the man whom the king delighted to honor.
Read.
And Mordecai came again to the king's gate. But Haman hasted to his house mourning.
Doing what?
Hasted to his house mourning.
Uh-huh.
And having his head covered.
Because he was ashamed. So he run into the house now. Read on.
And Haman told Zeresh, his wife, and all his friends everything that had befallen him.
Read.
Then said his wise men, Zeresh, his wife, unto him, if Mordecai be of the seed of the Jews, before whom thou hast begun to follow me, thou shalt not prevail against him.
Thou shalt not prevail against him. Read.
But shall surely fall before him.
But shall do what?
Surely fall before him.
Understand how the Most High worked. He put Esther where she needed to be up for her people, man. Read that out.
And while they were yet talking with him, came the king's chamberlain, and hasted to bring Haman unto the banquet.
Oh, now they came to get him to bring him unto the banquet. Read.
That Esther had prepared.
That who prepared?
That Esther had prepared.
That Esther had prepared. That the Jew had prepared. Start 71 right quick.
The book of Esther, chapter 7, verse 1. So the king and Haman came to the banquet with Esther the queen. And the king said again unto Esther on the second day at the banquet of wine, what is thou petition, Queen Esther? And it shall be granted thee. And what is thy request? It shall be performed, even to the half of the kingdom.
So he said, whatever you want, you got it. Read on.
Then Esther the queen answered and said, if I have found favor in thy sight, O king, and if it please the king, let my life be given me at my petition.
So she said she's requesting for her life because she understands what she's about to ask him could take her life. Read on.
And my people at my request. For we are sold, I and my people, to be destroyed, to be slain.
To be destroyed, to be killed. Read.
And to perish.
And to be removed. Read on.
But if we had been sold for bondmen and bondwomen, I have held my tongue.
So she said if we had been sold to be slave men and women, she would have never said nothing. Read on.
Although the enemy could not countervail the king's damage. Then the king Ahasuerus answered and said unto Esther the queen, who is he, and where is he, that durst presume in his heart to do so?
So he said, who is it that is trying to take your people out? Read on.
And Esther said, the adversary, an enemy, is this wicked Haman.
Is this what?
Is this wicked Haman.
Read on.
Then Haman was afraid before the king and the queen.
So Haman just put himself in the world of trouble. Let's get give me Psalms 34 and 21 right quick. Understand something. Let's see what's going on with the wicked. When you get there, read it out. Psalm 34 and 21.
The book of Psalms, chapter 34, verse 21. Evil shall slay the wicked.
What?
Evil shall slay the wicked.
The evil doings of the wicked is what's going to slay the wicked. Did he not hang gallows up for Mordecai to be hung on? Now the tables have turned on him. Read on.
And that they hated the righteousness shall be desolated.
And they that hate the righteous shall be desolate. They that hate God's people gonna be put to death. Let's go back, God. 7 and 7. Esther 7 and 7.
The book of Esther, chapter 7, verse 7.
Uh-huh.
And the king arising from the banquet of wine in his wrath went into the palace garden.
Uh-huh.
And Haman stood up to make request for his life to Esther the queen.
So Haman ended up begging the queen for his life now, because he know what's about to happen. Read on.
For he saw that there was evil determined against him by the king.
Uh-huh.
Then the king returned out of the palace garden into the place of the banquet of wine. And Haman was fallen upon the bed whereon Esther was.
Uh-huh.
Then said the king, will he force the queen also before me in the house?
So now he's feeling like that. He is not trying to force the queen now. Haman was out of line. He falling down begging for his life. The queen, I'm gonna tell you something. A king and his beautiful wife, he's not gonna let nothing come between that. Read on out.
As the word went out of the king's mouth, they covered Haman's face.
They did what?
They covered Haman's face.
That is not a good sign. When they covered Haman's face, they put a bag over his face. Understand what's about to happen to Haman. Read on.
And Haborna, one of the chamberlains, said before the king, behold,
read.
Also the gallows, 50 cubits high, which Haman had made for Mordecai.
Made for who?
Had made for Mordecai.
Read.
Who had spoken good for the king, standeth in the house of Haman. Then the king said, hang him thereon.
Do what?
Hang him thereon.
So them same gallows that he meant to murder one of our people, he is now being hanged from that. He's being brought, his own wickedness is falling up on his head. The same thing gonna happen to this wicked kingdom right now today. Everything that they doing to us, they gonna pay for it. Read on out.
So they hang Haman on the gallows that he had prepared for Mordecai. Then was the king's wrath pacified.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Keep going.
Keep going out.
On that day did the king Ahasuerus give the house of Haman the Jews' enemy unto Esther the queen.
So he gave everything that was Haman, he gave it unto Esther the queen. Read on.
And Mordecai came before the king, for Esther had told what he was unto her.
Uh-huh.
And the king took off his ring, which he had taken from Haman, and gave it unto Mordecai. And Esther set Mordecai over the house of Haman.
Read.
And Esther spake yet again before the king.
So understand, Mordecai had been set in the place of Haman. Now he's set on that pedestal that the king had Haman on. Read on out.
And fell down at his feet, and besought him with tears, to put away the mischief of Haman, the Agagite,
the Edomite. Read.
And his device that he had devised against the Jews.
Because he had a letter sent out to destroy them. So now they gotta put all that in reverse. Read on.
Then the king held out the golden scepter toward Esther. So Esther arose and stood before the king.
Read.
And said, if it please the king, and if I have found favor in his sight, and the thing seem right before the king, and I be pleasing in his eyes, let it be written to reverse the letters devised by Haman, the son of the Hammedatha and the Agagite, which he wrote to destroy the Jews which are in all the king's province.
Read on now.
For how can I endure to see the evil that shall come unto my people? Or how can I endure to see the destruction of my kindred? Then the king Ahasuerus said unto Esther the queen, and to Mordecai the Jew, behold, I have given Esther the house of Haman, and him that have hanged upon the gallows, because he laid his hand upon the Jews.
Since he decided to lay his hand upon his queen's people, he decided to kill him. Read on.
Write ye also for the Jews, as it liketh you. In the king's name, seal it with the king's ring. For the writing which is written in the king's name and sealed with the king's ring.
Read.
May no man reverse.
So understand, after he write this final letter about not dealing with these Jews, no man is going to be able to reverse what the king has already written. Now, Let me show you something. Give me Exodus 11 and 7 right quick. Understand, when you doing God's will, I'm going to show you something else that was going on. I'm going to show you something else. Whenever we keeping the commandments and doing what the Most High say do, he comes through for his people. So guess what? That means in this providence, where the Jews had resorted, they was keeping the commandments. They was doing what thus says the Lord. Because if they wasn't, he wouldn't have pulled them out. Read that for me, y'all.
The book of Exodus, chapter 11, verse 7.
Read.
But against any of the children of Israel shall not a dog move his tongue.
Read.
Against man or beast, that ye may know how that the Lord doeth put a difference between the Egyptians,
the Gentiles, read,
and Israel.
There's a difference between Israel's nation and the rest of the nations that are around us. You can't put your hands on us. You can't touch us. You can't treat us wrong. You can't disrespect us when we keeping the laws, statutes, and commandments of the Most High God. When we being obedient, there's no way you can touch us. That's why they can't touch us out there on that block. That's right. Let's go back. Give me Esther 9 and 1.
The book of Esther, chapter 9, verse 1. Now in the 12th month, that is the month of Adar, on the 13th day of the same, when the king's commandment and his decree drew near to be put in execution in the day that the enemies of the Jews hoped to have power over them, though it was turned to the contrary, that the Jews had ruled over them that hated them.
The same man say, if y'all don't pay attention to this Bible, every time the Most High come and take care of his business, we are put back in the rulership. So now check this out. The Jews have ruled over the whole situation now. Right. The same enemies that was going to be after the Jews, killing them and destroying them, let's see what the Jews going to do. Read that out.
The Jews gathered themselves together in their city throughout all the province of the king Ahasuerus to lay hand on such as sought their hurt. And no man could withstand them, for the fear of them fell upon all people.
Read on, man.
And all the rulers of the province and the lieutenants and the deputies and officers of the king helped the Jews. Because
what did they do?
Help the Jews.
Read.
Because the fear of Mordecai fell upon them.
So they understood that they couldn't touch Mordecai. And Mordecai was for his people. Esther was for her people. So they understood where they stood with him now. Because they had gained all the king's respect and all the honor of the king. Read on.
For Mordecai was great in the king's house.
He was what?
He was great in the king's house.
Read.
And his fame went out throughout all the province. For this man Mordecai waxed greater and greater.
Mordecai waxed stronger and stronger. Guess why? Because he was in the spirit of the Lord. The Most High had moves for him. Because he did what? He did not deny his Lord and Savior. He did not bow down to that wicked Haman. He did not bow down to the things that they want him to bow down to. He kept it 100 with the Most High. Drop down to verse 12.
Verse 12. And the king said unto Esther the queen, the Jews have slain and destroyed 500 men in Shushan, the palace. And the 10 sons of Haman, what have they done in the rest of the king's province? Now, what is thy petition? And it shall be granted thee. Or what is thy request further? And it shall be done.
He gave her full throttle. Tell me what you want, baby. I got you. Read on.
Then said Esther, if it please the king, let it be granted to the Jews which are in Shushan to do tomorrow also according unto this day decree. And let Haman 10 sons be hanged upon the gallows.
What's happening is the Jews are getting rid of all their enemies. Read on, huh?
And the king commanded it so to be done, and the decree was given, and Shushan, and they hanged Haman's 10 sons.
And they did what?
And they hanged Haman's 10 sons.
Got rid of his whole family. He had 10 sons. So he had 10 sons to keep on living his lifeline out. So now she done hanged all them. So Haman can't even have no more children. Got rid of them. Read.
For the Jews that were in Shushan gathered themselves together on the 14th day also of the month of Adar, and slew 300 men at Shushan. But on the prey they laid not their hands.
So they didn't lay their hands upon the animals, upon the spoils of the people that they killed. You know why? Because they sacrificed their stuff unto wickedness, unto devils. We don't deal with that. Read on out.
But the other Jews that were in the king's province gathered themselves together and stood for their lives, and had rest from their enemies.
And had what?
And had rest from their enemies.
The day coming, Israel. Read.
And slew of their foes 75,000, but they laid not their hands on the prey.
Read on.
On the 13th day of the month of Adar, and on the 14th day of the same, rest day, and made it a day of feasting.
And made it a what?
A day of feasting.
And they made it a day of feasting. A day, read on.
And gladness.
And gladness. This is a happy day for us, Israel. This is a day where the Most High came through and slaughtered our enemies. We're going to have another happy day like this coming pretty soon. Read on out.
But the Jews that were at Shushan assembled together on the 13th day thereof, and on the 14th day thereof, and on the 15th day of the same they rested, and made it a day of feasting and gladness.
See, we celebrate 2 or 3 days, 4, 5 days, 7 days, 8 days. That's how we get out. Read on out.
Therefore the Jews of the village that dwelt in the underwalled towns made the 14th day of the month Adar a day of gladness and feasting, and a good day, and of sending portions one to another.
Read on.
And Mordecai wrote these things and sent letters unto all the Jews that were in all the province of the king of Ahasuerus, both nigh and far.
Both near and far. Read on.
To establish this among them that should keep the 14th day of the month Adar and the 15th day of the same year.
So he sent this letter to all the Jews to let them know we celebrate this thing. We celebrate and we have a good time when the Most High come through for us for doing his will. Read on.
As the days were in, the Jews rested from their enemies, and the month which was turned unto them from sorrow to joy, and from mourning into a good day,
and from a day of aching and a day of pain into a good day, and from a day of sadness unto a good day. Read on.
That they should make them days of feasting and joy, and of sending portions one to another, and gifts to the poor.
And gifts to the poor. Read on.
And the Jews undertook to do as they had begun, and as Mordecai had written unto them.
Read.
Because Haman, the son of Hammedatha, a Agagite, the enemy of all the Jews.
The what?
The enemy of all the Jews.
Read.
Had devised against the Jews to destroy them, and had cast pur, that is the lot, to consume them and to destroy them.
Read.
But when Esther came before the king, he commanded by letters that his wicked devices,
read on,
which he devised against the Jews, should return upon his own head, and that he and his sons should be hanged on the gallows.
So everything that they dished out, all the devices that they made against the Jews were used to kill them. And that's the same thing that's happening right now. All these computers, the internet, Facebook, being online. All these things right now, we killing the so-called white man's lies. We bringing down the imaginations. We changing the whole world state of our people into coming back into who they are, royalty. Read on out.
Wherefore they call this day Purim.
What?
Purim.
That's what this is. This is the story of the Feast of Purim. This is where all this came from. The Feast of Purim came from us, from the Most High, bringing us out of turmoil, out of sadness. Read on out.
After the name of Purim, therefore, for all the words of this letter, and of that which they have seen concerning this matter, which had come unto them,
read.
The Jews ordained and took upon them, and upon their seed, and upon all such as joined themselves unto them.
So we got people coming in, they want to be Jews now. Read on.
So as it should not fail that they would keep these 2 days according to their writing, according to their appointed time every year.
So we put it in writing that we going to celebrate this the way the Most High brought us out. That's what this Feast of Purim is all about. It's how the Most High turned the wickedness of the wicked back on their own head. And if you read throughout the Bible, you constantly see the destruction of our enemies when we come back to doing what? When we keep these laws and do what thus says the Lord in our life. This Feast of Purim is very important. Even though it's not in the book of Leviticus, this is another time where the Most High came through and destroyed our enemy for us. Read on out.
And that these days should be remembered and kept throughout every generation, every family, every province, and every city, and that these days of Purim should not fail from among the Jews.
That means we're supposed to celebrate this thing throughout the history of our lives, throughout our time. We're supposed to celebrate the Feast of Purim. You're going to have a lot of wicked, old school, Old Testament Israelites, a lot of wicked Israelites saying it's not in Leviticus, we ain't supposed to do it. But it's throughout the whole book of Esther. Some of our people just hard-headed, man. Read on.
Nor the memorial of them perished from their seed. Then Esther the queen, the daughter of Abihail, and Mordecai the Jew, wrote with all authority to confirm this second letter of Purim. And he sent the letters unto all the Jews to the 127th province of the kingdom of Ahasuerus, with the words of peace and truth.
Read.
To confirm these days of Purim in their times appointed, according as Mordecai, the Jew, and Esther the queen had enjoined them, and as they had decreed for themselves and for their seed, the matters of the fasting and their cry.
Man, the matter of their fasting and their cry, the things that's part of our prayer life unto the Most High. So if you're not fasting and praying, you're not getting close to the Most High. That's right. Read on out.
And the decree of Esther confirmed these matters of Purim, and it was written in the book.
So this was written in the book. The Feast of Purim is a part of our heritage. We're supposed to celebrate this thing. Now let's go to the book of Esther in the Apocrypha of chapter 10. Get there with you. Let me show you something. The book of Esther, chapter 10, start at verse 4, which is the first verse in this book, in the Apocrypha. It's on page 55.
The book of Esther, chapter 10, verse 4. Then Mordecai said, God hath done these things, for I remembered a dream which I saw concerning these matters. and nothing thereof have failed.
Read.
A little fountain became a river.
A little beautiful girl became a grown beautiful girl. Read.
And there was light.
And there was what?
And there was light.
Read.
And the sun, and much water. This river is Esther.
This river is who?
This river is Esther.
Read.
Whom the king married and made queen.
The river was Esther, our beautiful sister, whom the king married and made queen. Read.
And the two dragons are I,
Mordecai,
Haman,
and Haman. Read.
And the nations were those that were assembled to destroy the name of the Jews.
So understand, he was one of the dragons, Mordecai, and Haman was the other dragon. And the other dragon, those were the nations who wanted to destroy the Jews. Read.
And my nations is this, Israel.
And Israel, which is Mordecai's nation, read.
Which cried to God and were saved.
And were what?
And were saved.
Read.
For the Lord hath saved his people. And the Lord hath delivered us from all those evils.
He delivered us from the death and destruction. Read.
And God hath wrought signs and great wonders, which have not been done among the Gentiles.
Which have not been done among who?
Among the Gentiles.
See, the Gentiles don't get the glory of the Lord. We do. Read on.
Therefore hath he made two lots, one for the people of God, and another for all the Gentiles.
So he made two lots, one for the people of God, righteousness, and the other for the Gentiles. They are ordained to be evil. These are the enemies of God. Read on, huh?
And these two lots came at the hour and time and day of judgment before God among all nations.
So these two lots are going to come before God. Among all nations, we're going to come before God. Read.
So God remembered his people and justified his inheritance.
So God remembered his people, Israel, and justified his inheritance. Remember, Jacob is the lot of his inheritance. The 12 tribes. Read.
Therefore those days shall be unto them in the month of Adar.
In the month of Adar, read.
The 14th and 15th day
read.
Of the same month. With an assembly and joy and with gladness before God, according to the generations, forevermore.
How long?
Forever.
How long?
Forever.
Read.
Among his people.
We're supposed to celebrate this thing until we die. That's what we're supposed to do. The Feast of Purim is a part of our heritage. It's a part of our nation. It's a part of us showing how the power of God always works for his people. How he comes through for us through everything we do. Keep his commandments and live. That's what happened to us. Y'all make sure that y'all celebrate this Feast of Purim, man. This is part of our nationality. On that, we say shalom.